Hey folks, it's Amy here. Welcome back to the Business of Yoga series. I am just kind of embarrassed and girl crush nerdy about my guest. I'm interesting interviewing today. So this is Dianne Bondy, everybody. You may recognize her from her amazing video, which we will talk about momentarily. I've watched it a lot, Dianne. Like
I appreciate that.
a lot. Probably a few thousand of those hits. It's me.
A million of them are me because I still can't quite believe it. Like I said to my husband, I go, is it vain that I'm constantly watching this commercial? Because I truly can't believe it's me. And I thought they did an amazing job with the concept in the commercial. So
well, let's talk about that a lot because, yeah, I'm nerdy about it. But before I do that, let me read out your official bio so that for those poor folks who have yet to overwatch your video can know a little bit more about you. So Dianne is a celebrated yoga teacher, a social justice activist, and a leading voice in the Yoga for All movement. Her inclusive view of yoga, asana, and philosophy inspires and empowers thousands of followers around the world. 1,000 of them are me. Regardless of the shape, size, ethnicity, or level of ability, Dianne contributes to Yoga International, Do You Yoga, and Elephant Journal. She's featured and profiled in international media outlets, The Guardian, The Huffington Post, Cosmopolitan, ooh, how exciting, People, and more. She's a spokesperson for diversity in yoga and yoga for larger bodies, as seen in her work in Penningtons, Gaiam, and the Yoga and Body Image collection. Her work is published in books, Yoga and Body Image, and Yes, Yoga Has Curves. Welcome.
woo-woo. Thank you.
So in case anybody's like, what video? Hello, if you haven't had so many people tag you on Facebook with that video, you need to just go find it. What do we search for if we're looking for it? Oh, no, don't answer that. I'm going to tell everybody. Go to Dianne's website. It's on her homepage. What is DianneBondyYoga.com, right? Or
yes,
.ca.com.
.com. Yeah.
That's right. It's you're global. Yeah. Okay. Canadian URLs. So welcome, Dianne.
Yep.
Thanks for making time to share your yoga wisdom with all of us.
My pleasure. It's an honor to be here. We were just talking a little bit earlier, and I said, as a Canadian, I feel that we have this connection with Australians because we have the same kind of parliamentary system. The Queen is also on our money. You know, we have socialized medicine. I feel like we're like parallel countries, just kind of like flipped on our sides. So I think I feel like we're cousins or family, you know.
Oh, I like that. All the cool people, right? All the cool people are from. No.
All the cool people, everybody. Australia or Canada.
We're inclusive here.
Yep, totally.
So, Dianne, before I've got so much that I want to talk to you about, but I was wondering, could we start with, could you tell us about what does your business look like these days? And then I want to talk about trajectory too. So what is your yoga business made up of right now?
You know what? It's kind of interesting. I'm going to go about this in a kind of roundabout kind of way. There was an article floating around on the internet about owning a yoga studio. And it was a cautionary tale. And I posted on my Facebook page because I had written something similar, and I believe it was Elephant Journal, perhaps, about 3 or 4 years ago, about the perils of kind of owning a yoga studio. And when I got into yoga, it was not so much that it was going to be a career for me as it was that I enjoyed teaching. I had been a group fitness instructor for a number of years. I had always done yoga as part of my life, and it just seemed like a natural progression for people who were leading very stressful lives. So it really started out as a stress management tool for myself, and then sharing that with the other people in my community, and it quickly morphed into a business. Like, I didn't really think that it was going to become, you know, what I did full time. And, you know, I got to be honest, I kind of stepped ass backwards into it from an accounting job. I was an accountant for a number of years, working in audit for the Lottery and Gaming Corporation and for the Casino Corporation. And I know that's like a far stretch from being a yoga teacher, for real. And I was leaving, and I always had yoga going on. I've been practicing all of my life. And when I left for maternity leave, I picked up my practice so much stronger because I had time off. I don't know what your maternity leave situation is like in Australia, but here we get a year off. And I think it was recently up to 18 months, but you get a chunk of time off. And so I thought this would be a good way to manage the stress of being a good mom, a new mom and all that, and then introducing it to people in my neighborhood. So I started off very small, just renting space at my church, in a local church here, just renting the hall out and offering yoga classes to my friends. And it just grew, word of mouth. And before I knew it, I had over 200 students, and I had to start looking at a permanent studio space. And
hang on, so just check in there. So you were still essentially sort of freelancing with 200 students.
Yeah.
I love it. It's possible, folks. Yeah. It's possible.
Yeah, I started out with 12. I started out with 12 students. 6 of them were my neighbors, and my neighbors brought a friend. So, and then people really enjoyed my teaching. And so, you know, it started out with 2 classes, and 2 classes became 4 classes, and 4 classes became 6 classes. And before I knew it, I was teaching 10 classes a week. That was averaging 20 to 30 people per class.
Wow.
I had to find a permanent space for us, because we were just outgrowing our space. And then I opened a brick and mortar, studio in a plaza, and I ran that for 10 years, which was the biggest education of my life. You know, I have a university degree and I have studied business, and but nothing like that will prepare you for being a small business owner. And I did that for a number of years. And I always said to myself, I would do it as long as I was enjoying it and it was fun. And when it became too stressful and too much like my accounting job, that I was going to give it up. And after 10 years, I found 10 years seemed to be the time when I thought.
Seems to be a common sweet spot.
Yeah, where I thought, you know what, I've done this for 10 years. It was a PhD in psychology, sociology, community organizing, community building, accounting, you name it, maintenance. I learned to fix stuff. You know, I was the janitor. You know, I became really efficient at IT. Like, you know, you just learn everything as a small business owner, where you're the only full-time employee, for me anyway.
Yeah.
And from there, I started writing and blogging and got interested in taking my business online. And a lot of my friends were having babies, you know, about year 8 into my studio. So I offered online classes, which I just filmed in the studio for my members. So if you had a full year membership, I offered online studio. So what my husband did is we went out, we bought a DSL, I don't even know what it is, camera, we bought some lights, we mounted it, we just taped classes, and we had an online streaming for those people who couldn't make it to class. And that morphed into, you know, people wanting to offer these classes to their friends outside the studio. And it became this online site relatively quickly in 2012.
Wow.
So YogaStia has been up for 5 years, and it's been we just learned, right? And my husband learned how to edit video. We learned about lighting. Take a course at the college. Oh, there's a course at the college in photography. Maybe you should go take that, so we know how to film ourselves. And it just kind of evolved that way. And then, as you know, cameras became more sophisticated every year. Your phone became really sophisticated. You could take video on your phone. And we just got really proficient at figuring out angles and learning how to film stuff. So we just keep adding more content, and people just kept subscribing. So people would see my videos online. I'd post videos on YouTube, and then I started getting invitations from people around the world to come and speak and teach. And it's just slowly evolved. It's almost like when you know your purpose and when you're focused on what you love, the opportunities come in. Now, it's been a lot of hard work. It may seem like it happened overnight, but that 10 years of owning a yoga studio was the preparation to taking my business online, for sure.
Wow. Fantastic. You know, with so much, you know, amrita in everything you just said, but one of the things I love to point out for people that you started with what you had.
Yes. Yeah. You know, I didn't take out a business loan to start my business. Everything has been self-funded. I haven't had to do a GoFundMe page or anything like that. Not that I wouldn't. I've just worked with what I had. And when I made a little bit of money, I would invest it back into, I would pay myself first, but then I would invest it back into the studio. And I would, you know, look at other ways that I could offer my services to a global market. I wasn't that my local yoga community wasn't sufficient or big enough, but I just thought, there weren't, at the time, there weren't a lot of larger bodied or abundant bodied, as I'd like to call myself.
Ooh, I'm writing that down.
Yeah, abundant bodied teachers out there sharing and showing other people of size or other people of abundance within their bodies that this practice was for them as well. And I think the big jumping off point for me is when I wrote a blog for Elephant Journal called Yoga Isn't Just for Skinny White Girls. So that's, of course, the title is clickbait, but it gives you an idea that, you know, diversity on the mat is a very important thing. And then people started reaching out to me with their stories of feeling excluded from a practice, and that rapidly became my platform. And I put myself out there to show everybody that all bodies are welcome on the mat, and we can't make judgment about people's bodies based on the way they look. And so I just, you know, was at the beginning, I guess, of the body positive movement. So,
and so how long ago was that article, Dianne?
I believe it was 2013 or 2012 even. So it was a while ago.
Okay. Tell us about the video, just so that I can get my fangirl on.
So the video is actually kind of interesting. I do a yoga for all training with a friend of mine named Amber Carnes. Yes, Amber Carnes. And she had gotten the call from Penningtons saying, you know, we've seen some of your work online. Would you be interested in doing this commercial? And she said, you know what? I'm not Canadian. You're a Canadian company. I have a friend who I think would be really great at doing this commercial. It's not something I'm interested in doing. And so she introduced me to Penningtons, and they were like, how did we not know about you? And they saw my work and they saw my videos, and they invited me to come to Montreal. And I went to Montreal and filmed. We did the whole commercial in one day. So you're looking, when you see that, you know, 30 seconds or a minute of that commercial.
59 seconds.
How long?
59.
59 seconds. That's funny that you know exactly what it is. That 59 seconds of that commercial was like 15 hours of filming. So I would love to see all the other stuff that we did, because we did a lot of stuff for that day. But what's really cool about that commercial is it looks like it's in this very industrial yoga space, but it's actually in a parking garage. So on the other side of the camera, there's all these cars parked. You know, I'm barefoot clearly because it's yoga in the space, but I had to put on shoes when I stepped off my mat because there was all kinds of stuff around. And you know, they had a fog machine come in and blow a little fog to give it that kind of feel. And I didn't speak any French, and the whole crew was French. So I had this assistant, and I'd be like, water, you know. It was like, you know, I'm Canadian, I really should learn French. And so it was so much fun. It was such a fun day. Everybody was super nice, and it was you know, I was really appreciative. Penningtons was starting this I Won't Compromise campaign, and just showing bodies in a real positive light, because what we've seen before with clothing companies is the need to cover up fat bodies, right? We'll cover that up, and everything's always like big, no shape, these horrible patterns, like stuff that people don't even want to wear. And Penningtons is you know, like, what is that? It looks like the drape. And Penningtons took it on themselves to create some really cool athletic wear and to show it in a real cool way. And I really love the music. I get lots of questions about where can I buy this track, and it was specifically created by a local artist in Montreal for that commercial.
Wow!
And so it was also well done, and I just was really appreciative that a company was going to take it to the next level, because we hadn't seen the whole idea of being fat as cool or athletic or, you know, attractive or graceful, because, you know, it says all the things that, you know, fat women slip, or fat women aren't graceful, or fat women can't lift themselves. Breaking all those stereotypes down in 59 seconds is really quite exciting. And then I got to shake my groove thing, which I like to do on the regular anyway.
So jealous of that. I know it's not yogic to be jealous, but that's and the way that you wink, I just think, oh, if I just had like a tenth of that sexiness, oh God, what could I do with it?
We could rule the world.
It's so good.
It was fun.
I love it. I love it. There's so many ways we could go here. Okay, while I remember, I wanted to ask you about your teacher training, because I remember when I did my first 200-hour teacher training, the first gig I got was teaching the women who worked at a women's gym on their lunch break. I'd come in and teach them yoga. And most of them were abundant bodied women. And I was a new teacher and I had like nothing. I was making it up as I went along, but there was, I didn't know how to modify well for them. I was nervous about making them feel uncomfortable because I was lacking in skills. I'm so interested to know more about this training because I think it's a really beautiful addition to what the skill set that we can access as growing teachers. Tell us more about it.
And that's kind of how it came about, is being watching new teachers struggle. So I started a teacher training in my studio, when I owned my studio, in 2010. And a big part of that teacher training was adapting yoga for different abilities and body types, which is something we don't ordinarily see, especially even when you have somebody come in and teach anatomy. The anatomy diagrams are always very small and slender, right?
I never thought of that.
I don't think, I think people are just not paying attention. That every book on anatomy you see is a very slender person, and anatomy looks different in bodies and in different bodies, and we make assumptions about what bodies can do and can't do, and once we don't know how to adapt our own practice to somebody else, then we're lost. And I've gone to many a yoga class and had seen teachers just panicked when they see me roll up, not knowing that I'm able to create variations and modifications for myself because I've been working with this body for 44 years, right? So I'm fully aware of how it works. I'm fully aware of my body based on my own education of yoga, but most people aren't. Like most teachers aren't, and most students aren't even familiar with what they can and can't do, and often surprised in a yoga class about their own strength and their own flexibility. So I just felt bad for these teachers and really bad for their students, who are often ignored in a yoga class because the teacher simply didn't have the skill set to help them. So my husband had approached me. He's kind of like, this is our business, and he's always like the visionary on what we should do next kind of thing. And he was like, I really think I've been teaching for over 25 years, with all your knowledge and experience, you could help other teachers get over this fear and help, expand people's knowledge, give them tools for teaching to anybody that steps in the room, because we very rarely go to a yoga class where everybody is at the same ability, right? Or, can do all the poses flawlessly, who don't need any help, that you can just stand at the room and just basically call out these poses without really having to teach and change and engage your students. And I really wanted to change that narrative that everybody's welcome. Let's figure out how to adapt these poses. So I had started putting together my online course, but I was kind of lost. And it was kind of funny because just as we were talking about putting together this course, Amber Carnes reached out to me and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this course. Do you want to do it together? And I had been stalking her on YouTube, and I had sent her a bunch of messages on YouTube saying to her, I watch your videos. I think you have an amazing camera presence. Would you come and be on my online studio? And she wouldn't get back to me. And I was getting I even emailed her and she didn't get back to me. And I thought, okay, that's okay. She doesn't know who I am. She's maybe, doing her own thing. And then to have her reach out to me from the blue, and I said, I've literally been stalking you for a year, and I'm so excited that you reached out to me. Yes, I would love to work with you on this project, because I think together we can offer so much more from your experience perspective, from my experience and perspective. And so what was the great thing is she's a digital marketer. So that was her day job. She does that for other companies. And she says, I birth a lot of these projects for companies. So she kind of knew how to put it together, where I was like, how am I going to do this? This is not my area of expertise, And so it was nice. It was a nice collaboration, because I had all this information and knowledge from running so many teacher trainings, and she had all this information and knowledge from, being a student in a larger body and being a yoga teacher and being able to put together digital content really beautifully. So it was a nice complement of skills. And so we came together with a syllabus, and it was always our goal to give yoga teachers more tools for their tool belt, to make them feel confident, and to really help broaden this practice by having teachers that could adapt to anybody that shows up, so that people didn't have to feel rejected or dejected when they show up to a yoga class and have the teacher say to you like, well, there's always child's pose, which is code for I don't know
what to do
with you.
And sometimes child's pose actually is like, well, for some people, my ass is in the air because my body's got to go somewhere. Like, that's not the pose.
Yes.
I feel even worse there. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. This is not a comfortable pose for me. So I don't even want to do child's pose or, or the other thing, well, do what you can. Here's a block, and just kind of walk away and leave people to figure it out. And people, and it was always, I never wanted to watch certain people get to do the practice and other people watch, because we don't show up to yoga class to watch flexible people practice. We show up to yoga class to be included in part of that experience. So I thought to myself, we have to make this better. And it's just something that's not covered in 200-hour trainings. It just isn't. So we thought, we're going to solve that problem. We are fat girls, big girls. And I use the word fat or abundant interchangeably, because I don't have a negative connection to that word. I cleanse that word for myself, and it doesn't mean anything derogatory when I use it to identify myself. So I really wanted to start taking away some of the sting and some of the hatred and some of the vitriol around that word that everybody likes to toss around. And so we really wanted to put together a program that addressed, body image in the media, and how we can start tuning out some of these messages that are super damaging to a lot of us, and become a little bit more media critical when we see these images that keep coming up and not be triggered or affected by them. And to, offer teachers ways to help their students so that everybody felt included. So that wound up being a 5-week, 25-hour online course that people had access to with, we have a community, we have a Facebook group, we pose questions, and we've now graduated over, I believe, 200 teachers, if not more, from the program, who have gone on to create accessible classes all over the world. So I just think really it's a great
extra. I think it seems like yoga teachers are addicted to training, and I'm one of them, and I love that. But
me too.
Let's look for, what would add to what I already know, rather than let me repeat something I've already done
over and over and over and over and over again. I already did that in Anasara, so.
Me too.
Yeah. Oh, you're not sorry too. You were part of that whole situation. Your body bright. Your body bright.
How much core have I had to learn since I stopped popping my ribs forward from opening?
Right.
Inner
spiral, outer spiral, inner spiral, outer spiral. Yeah.
I love it. And we all get to move on and grow. So, there's two things that came out of that beautiful explanation. The first one, I got to ask this: business partner with husband.
Yes.
Tell us about that. How does that work? How do you life partners, business partners? I mean, there's some dharma for you.
Totally. And we never intended to do any of this. Like, again, I never intended to do any of this. And it's funny because when I started teaching at the church, just renting that space and teaching at the church, I'm like, well, how am I going to let people, this is 2005. How am I going to let people know about this? I was like, I need a website. And I went to my husband, who's a musician, and he also deals cards at a casino. And I said to him, we need a website. And he's like, I think I probably could figure out how to build a website. And so he went online and figured out how to build a website. And when I kind of look back at the website we created in 2005, it's just like, it's so cringy, right? Like, it was like, oh, but it got the job done, and it got people to follow. And then people would come and they'd be like, oh, I don't have a check. Do you take credit cards? I'd be like, I don't know. Can we take credit? Oh yeah, there's this thing called PayPal, and then put up a PayPal button and people could, and so that's how it started. Like, this was totally my idea and my project to run these classes, because I'd always taught fitness classes and I'd always been a really popular instructor at the gym. So I knew that I could attract people to my classes, but it was getting the word out there. And he kind of, I guess, reluctantly at first became my business partner, because he built the website out for me and he did a great job, and he's just gotten better and better and better and better and better. And now, he always does my websites. He's done all of the websites now. and he's just, you know, took courses, gone online, went to workshops, figured it out. That's how we do stuff ass backwards. I'm just going to tell you, we're just like, oh, we need to figure out how to do this. Oh, look, there's an online course on how to do this. Let's just take it, right? So that's kind of how we.
I think what you're sharing with us is just, folks, Diane's got tens of thousands of people following her all over the world. And what she's just said is like they started totally DIYing it. I think
everything.
Such a great message.
Yeah. So, you know, how do I get the message out there to more people? Because this is what I love and I want to share it. And then that's how we started. And I just started getting more and more people from that. And then he really loves marketing and online content creation. And once he started building this website, he's like, oh, I think I want to have a membership site. Let's look into that. And then, you know, that coincided with my friends wanting classes at home because they had kids, they were having babies and they couldn't get out. And so it all kind of came together serendipitously. And, you know, like I said, if you're true to yourself and you love what you do, it's funny how if you're paying attention in your life and you're watching, things will become evident. Like all of a sudden, this is what you need to be doing. And if you do it and it doesn't work out, it's just like, okay, what lessons did I learn here? Okay, yeah, maybe not do that. But how do I pivot and do something over here if this isn't working, and not getting caught up in this I'm a failure kind of situation, which is easy to go down that rabbit hole. But we learned very quickly, if you're going to be successful in this particular line of business, that you have to have multiple streams of income. Like you can't own a studio because there's no money in that. I'll say it again. There is no money in that. You have to do that as a source of education, because you want to build community, because you love it. I think the only people who are probably making money at owning a yoga studio is anybody who's part of what I call Mick Yoga, which is any kind of franchisee stuff. I think in the States they have a big one called Core Power that hasn't managed to pierce into the market here, but I'm sure it's coming at some point. We have something very similar called Moksha, which is like a franchise opportunity. But we just recently saw Yoga Works wanted to do an initial public offering and become kind of a big, but people pulled out at the last minute because there was a viability issue. So, I mean, that's really real in the yoga industry. So I found that part of, I think, my success as a yoga teacher is that I love to write. So I had lots of opportunities to blog. And once I wrote one blog and people read it, other people would invite me to blog. And then I like to talk. So I've been interviewed for lots of podcasts, which is really fun. And that always expands your reach. And then I started doing my little Monday morning rants on whatever's going on in my life. So I always tag them to the top of my Facebook page. This is what I'm thinking about this week, kind of stuff. And then more people see that and reach out to you. But initially, it's just putting yourself out there and being open to whatever opportunities come your way.
So a beautiful segue in what I wanted to talk with you about next, which is for people, I hear this again and again and again, people terrified of putting themselves out there. And a lot of this is about because of how I look, actually. Totally. Regardless of what that is, you know, it's their own filter of it not being right.
Right.
What would you, I mean, so you've been teaching online classes for a long time, and you have a public persona now. You're putting yourself out there beautifully with confidence. What would you say to people who are feeling, oh, but not me, I haven't got what it takes and whatever that they think they need more or less of? What would you say to those teachers?
What I've learned, the biggest lesson that I learned when I first created my very first website, I used stock photos because I was worried that people wouldn't come and practice with a fat yoga teacher. And I was really conscious of not looking like the stereotypical yogi. And then I don't know what happened where I was just like, I don't care anymore. I'm tired of stock photos. I hired a photographer. I had everybody show up. We took pictures. We put them up on the website, and then I waited for people to comment or to dismiss me because of my body size or whatever. And then the absolute opposite happened. People were able to identify with me because they had a body type that was similar to me. And these look like real people doing yoga as opposed to fitness models doing yoga.
Yes.
And so I think that was a huge moment for me. I remember I took a yoga teacher training with at the time, she was a very prominent Anusara teacher and one of my favorite teachers in the world. Her name is Betsy Downing. And we had this conversation. I know.
I can handstand because of that woman.
Right? She's amazing. I love her so much. And I was at a 5-day intensive workshop with her, and it clicked in that workshop that my business was growing and building because I put myself out there and I was vulnerable. And there's this great teacher named Brene Brown. If you guys have not heard of her, check her out. And she talks about the power of vulnerability. And I felt really vulnerable and raw putting my picture out there. But the reaction was so incredible. And my business actually increased when somebody was like, wait a minute, I look like that. I don't necessarily look like that, size 00 fitness model. So I can't maybe relate to that, but I certainly can relate to somebody who looks like me, and maybe I'll try yoga. And it never occurred to me that putting my picture out there and being okay with being out there would actually increase my business and actually, for me, start a whole revolution in the way that I was thinking about yoga, the way I was thinking about myself. And I also think, as I rapidly plummet through my 40s, when I turned 40, there was a lot of I don't give a shit anymore about a lot of things, right? I was just like, this was the stuff I was worried about in my 30s. And I've come to find out worrying about it has gotten me nowhere, right? And the worst case scenario that I always think is going to happen never happens. And I create these stories and these narratives in my mind that were never my stories or my narratives to begin with. So what if I set all that shit, sorry, I like to swear, all that stuff,
remember?
Oh, good. Really, I really like swear words. Good. All that stuff aside, what would my life look like if I stopped letting other people define me, criticize me, limit me, project their fears on me? If I could just set all of that aside, what would it look like? And this is what it looks like. It looks like I'm showing up to my life the best way I know how. And if you've got a criticism about that, I don't give a shit. It's funny. I do a lot of videos and video content for Yoga International. And I did a video on, I think it was a Down Dog Reboot. Might have been that video. It's something that went up pretty recently. And somebody commented on the video, wow, a fat yoga teacher, how bizarre. And ordinarily, I would be like, why do you feel you need to comment on somebody else's body? And I thought, no, I'm not going to engage. I don't need to try to change anybody's mind about this. And people are entitled to their opinions. I don't have to feed in, and this has nothing to do with me. Whatever comments people are making about other people's bodies have to do with them and their own insecurities, right? Yes. So it was interesting because then I called them my D-hive. My supporters came for this person and said, wow, a rude yoga teacher, what a bizarre thing. And then they started commenting back and forth and calling this person in to say, how about we stop judging people based on what they look like and actually look at the content of the video, which could be helpful. And it was really interesting to see people step up. And I think we're at a place in time where people are just kind of tired of this ongoing rhetoric and this meanness. And you know what I mean? That people are no longer okay with this body shaming. We've come to a place where we've drawn a line in the sand and we're saying no more. I don't know what the catalyst for that was, but I'm so grateful that we're saying, nope, this is not acceptable anymore. And sooner or later, those people are going to figure it out for themselves. But when I see comments like that, I always feel just kind of sorry for people, because I'm thinking you're missing the whole point of living. And I just, honest to God, like I said, I don't know if it's because I'm 47, I don't know, what it was, but I stopped caring because these comments don't define me, and other people's opinions of who I am don't define me. And I refuse to let it continue. I refuse to live up to other people's expectations. I refuse to feed into that because it doesn't make me happy and it doesn't move me forward. So I want to focus on what I'm doing, and that's hopefully empowering people to stand up for themselves and to live their best lives.
I love that. I've had that experience too, where people say to me, I'm so glad that you just have the photos of how you really look, because you just look like a normal person. And I'm thinking, you've got no idea. I've got 2 hours of makeup on to look that normal. Okay.
And there's lighting and there's editing, right? And a photograph takes like a second, right? So if you ever see a picture of me in handstand in the middle of the room, know that that was they set up a camera, hit burst, and the camera took 100 pictures, and you just happened to catch me there. So that's not even real. Okay, and I'm lit from all different angles, right? Somebody's gone in and cleaned things up in Photoshop. Know that when you see these fabulous pictures of people doing stuff, they're not real. I can't tell you. We did a photo shoot for Gaiam, and there's outtakes of me I'm helping another yoga teacher. And I'm like, I'm talking to the photographer. I'm like, okay, she's in it. I'm going to run out of the shot. And I run out of the shot. They take the picture and she falls down. Like, it's just, this is the truth of these photo shoots. Nobody's doing this stuff.
I've got a photographer that I work with, and we have it like, I had to make it very clear with you. I need you to tell me about camel toe in these pants. Like,
yeah. For real.
We're going to talk about this.
Yes, for realsies. You can't let me go out like that, because you know somebody's going to comment, and that's all you will see in that picture, right? You won't be able to see the beauty of the pose. You'd be like, why didn't somebody tell me my pants are being eaten by my labia?
I think you've just hit my all-time favorite interview from that phrase alone. Okay, so much more that I want to ask you, and I understand that we're going to run out of time. I say that to everybody, and it's always true. Let me see. Do you know what, something that I was considering while listening to what you were sharing was about the body shaming. I think in yoga industry land, we have a similar phenomenon with money. I think there's still this talk about it. We're very judgy of each other. There's, you don't want to earn too much or make out that you are, but there's sort of something about, well, I'm so struggling and poor, and that somehow, I think this is actually, that might be another taboo that it's about time that we sort that one out.
Yeah, I here's what I'm going to say about that. I don't believe there's any nobility in poverty.
Dianne, sorry, you've just got a little bit quieter. I'm not sure if something's changed on your, there we go.
Is that better?
It's way better. Tell us again.
I said, we have this idea that there's some kind of nobility in poverty for a yoga teacher. And I'm sure it comes from a long history of where yoga comes from, right? And yoga as a service. And these are some 6th century ideals when the world was a much different place in another part of the world, okay? If we are pursuing this as a career here, if you want to share yoga, you have to have the lights on in the studio, right? You have to have a place to practice. I think if you start thinking of it in terms of you're not actually perhaps paying for the yoga as you are paying for the space, right? For keeping the lights on, for the heating, that kind of thing, that the yoga in and of itself is actually free. But there is this real idea that making money as a yoga teacher is a huge taboo. But it's a service or a job like anything else. You're out there teaching these ancient teachings, but that also happens at a university level. When I go and take a business course at the University of Windsor, a lot of these teachings aren't new. A lot of these teachings have been around for hundreds of years, and they still charge me $1,500 in tuition to take these teachings.
Yeah.
Right. And if we start looking at money as an exchange of energy, as an exchange of prana, it's not that big of a deal. If in order for me to share yoga with you, I have to eat, I have to clothe myself. I've got these kids that need to eat.
But you also need to, I think we get to claim that I need to keep training. I need to hang out with my own teacher. I need to go on a retreat at least once a year. I need to buy yoga books or subscriptions. This ain't luxury. It's just...
It's not. It's necessity. And I always think of it as a service. And there's lots of services that I pay for all the time. I don't go into a restaurant and expect to eat for free. Yeah. I don't go to the grocery store and fill my cart and walk out for free. And I really feel like if you want to provide service. So for me, if I'm not making money as a yoga teacher, the only thing I can provide to you is my time. And when I run out of time, I don't have anything else to give you. But if I'm a yoga teacher that's making money, if I can't if I don't have the time to serve you, then I can make a donation to your cause. And then you can build out your cause from that. Or how about, why are we okay with greedy corporations that are destroying society, that are ruining the earth, having all the power and the wealth in the world? Why is that totally okay for the Walmarts of the world to own such a big piece of the pie, but somebody who's sharing empowerment and love and unity and community aren't allowed to make money? Aren't those the values that we want to support more than greed and paying off shareholders hundreds of billions of dollars? Like, I don't understand why we wouldn't want to put money in the hands of people who want to do good in the world.
Things with it. Oh, so well said. Thank you.
I don't understand that. So if we could change our perspective in thinking around making money for our teachings are just as valuable as those teachings when you run off and take a degree at the university, and they don't have any problem taking your money.
I love it. Thank you. All right. So tell us about, there's a class that you have that we can enjoy, a 10-minute class that people can access. So thank you for sharing that with us. Tell us about it and about this power posture, power posing sort of scenario. Tell us more.
So I recently learned about power posing. I saw, if you get a minute, go to YouTube and type in power posing. And it's interesting. Off the top of my head, I can't remember who did the TED Talk.
Oh, yes.
But it was pretty incredible. She was somebody who felt super insecure. And she had seen a study where people who felt powerful had certain stances in their body. So when I think of powerful people, can I just say I'm super obsessed with Wonder Woman? Wonder Woman. If you have not seen that movie, you must see that movie. And she's got lots of power poses in that movie, that just where she becomes strong and she stands fully in herself. So I saw this video right before I was going to do a keynote speech. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to try this power posing out. So I stood in the mirror and I did Wonder Woman stances and I did warrior stances. And I said, what are the most powerful stances I could do? And that really built my confidence. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to share that. So I went out to do this keynote speech and I started with power posing. So even if you don't feel powerful, there's certain poses that you can take that lift your energy, that make you feel strong, that make you feel powerful. And then it really kind of just broke the tension in the room. And I mean, I was super nervous. I was speaking to about 1,000 people. And I was just like, I am just super nervous. And this power posing just made it, you know, light and good. And I felt powerful in the moment. And I felt like everybody was up and out of their chairs and doing these poses. Ooh. And then I said, take this out into your real life. I mean, you don't have to do this in an interview, or if you're, you know.
Can you imagine? Hi, everyone.
And power posing in an interview, you will not get the job. So just do it in the bathroom before, and then feel the strength and that power. And you know what? It's just, if you believe it, it will be. So if you can stand in that power, it will happen. And know that you got this, right? You got this. All this negative stuff that you hear in your mind is not really you. It's social conditioning is what it is. There's something or somebody that gets powerful from pulling your power away from you, that have you stand in doubt. And know that your bravery and your courage happens through your fear. It happens by confronting the fear, feeling the fear and doing it anyway, and then doing a couple power poses and saying to yourself, I got this. And it's amazing how that will turn things around. And I do that now for everything, because people always say to me, you're so brave and you're so fearless. Oh no, I'm scared. I'm scared shitless a lot, but I just don't let it consume me. I just think, okay, this is fear. It's okay to feel fearful, but I'm not going to let it stop me from stepping forward and stepping into my power, because I'm worthy of this. And what I have to share is important, and I want to share it, right? This is my service to the world, and I'm going to stand in my power. So I just say to fear, yeah, I get you. You know, sometimes you're good, but right now it's not going to work. And I do a couple power poses, and then I just headlong by the seat of my pants, just go. I just go. It never occurs to me not to just go.
If I wasn't as jealous as I am about how you can wink so well, I'd probably just be weeping now, because oh my God, see what you can do, people. You could ask me to do anything with that wink. It's ridiculous. That was just such a beautiful message for us to finish up on, Dianne. You've shared some absolute gems here. The idea of work with what you've got, get better as you go along, get the training that you need so that you stop avoiding students that you might worry that you can offend, or that you don't know what to, like, go get the support that you need in whatever that looks like. That you also shared with us about how when you really are passionate about what you do, then opportunities arise and you get sort of swept along with that momentum. That it's possible to have a business partner who's also your
spouse,
your life partner,
your partner.
Like, I find that to be mind-bending and wonderful.
I know.
And that, let alone, you know, the body of work that you're doing for all of us, not just people who are abundant-bodied, but people who aren't, so that everybody can get it more. We can build cohesion. You know, I think there are more other groups that need this sort of work as well, however we choose to sort of segment ourselves. So thank you for that. And go check out Dianne's video. Go get the 10-minute power pose yoga. I'm thinking about all those poor yoga teachers that I talked to, who are like, I've got a trial class. I've got to go and teach a trial class so I can get a gig at this studio, and they're so nervous. They should do this first.
Totally. And just, you know, go out there and be you. Teach from who you are. Don't imitate anybody else. You know what my favorite thing is? When I first started teaching, I sounded a lot like my teacher, and then you find your voice, right? Mm-hmm. And then your tribe finds you, right? Mm-hmm. Like, whatever silly, however you teach, there are people that resonates with, and just don't be afraid, because we're all more alike than we are different. And if we could just kind of break through that, we'll learn that this is really for everybody. So I may be speaking to those of us who are in bigger bodies, but really collectively, I'm speaking to all of us, because we all have the same fears and insecurities about ourselves. And we can work through them, because our bravery and our courage lies just beyond our fear.
Thank you so much for being the most fabulous guest.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. Thanks for inviting me. And I have to get to Australia. Like, I'm dying to go. And so a friend of mine, she does fat yoga in Australia, we're chatting. So look out for me. I'm coming down under, people. I'm coming down under in 2018. It's on my list. It's in my crosshairs. I'm focusing intently on it.
Excellent. Can't wait. Thanks, Dianne.
Power posing in Australia. Here we go.